red-green kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it says it's running in 4 minutes. Or 4 minutes. Okay. We're good.
Are we on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear us? Yay! So hi guys! I'm Sheridan with Garden Guys and Gal, and this is of course Jerry. Behind the camera today we have a great intern with us, Rachel. She's going to be helping us out. So we're going to be talking about a tough topic
So
today.
we should point out that JD and what's his name, Cody, are legitimately gone. They did have some assignments to do.
Yes,
So
they did. So
they
they're
occasionally
excused.
work.
They're
Yeah.
excused, I guess,
Yeah.
if they have to be. So yeah, we wish they were here with us, but they're not. But that's okay. We'll go without them. But this is a tough topic, so you and I are going to tackle this together. We're talking
I've been
about
toughening up.
Have you
I-
been bulking up, beefing up, getting that knowledge going? Because we're going to need it. We're talking about drought today. So
water.
we are in a really kind of scary drought. I just read that the runoff is 17% of normal, which is frightening to me.
That's
It's really
pretty low.
scary. And so I know people have a lot of questions about it. I know there's a lot of water restrictions that are starting to pop up. There was an article in the Standard Examiner that talked about Pine View Reservoir, which feeds Weber Basin Water District.
I read that, yeah.
Maybe we will not have water after August if we're not careful. So
I think, and I've always said, if everybody was just wise and used what they need, not what they can use, I don't think we'd have a problem.
Right.
I really don't.
right.
But a lot of us tend to think that plants need more water than they do,
Right.
and so we waste a lot.
We do.
And we know that because our ponds are fed by stormwater, which runoff off the streets, which right now it's flowing, and the only reason it's flowing is because people have sprinklers on.
Right.
And it's running down into the drain, storm drains, and then we get it. So we do know that there's water being wasted because it comes into our
Absolutely.
ponds, which we're okay with because we have ponds.
Right,
but-
and we filter the water with the wetlands, and we have wildlife there, which is great, but it still doesn't fix the
No.
problem of our water shortage.
no,
So,
it doesn't.
type your questions if you have questions in the comments. I know that there will be questions in your mind about this, and we are happy to try and tackle those and answer those the best that we can.
So Sheridan, I wanted to start off by talking just a little bit about what we do here at the Botanical
Yeah,
Center.
absolutely, you do that.
Because we have a little bit of a different watering. We get a lot of questions because the restrictions are normally from don't water from 10 in the morning until 6 in the evening. The problem that we run into is if we water the same time our neighbors do, our neighbors have no pressure.
Right.
And we use water that's running off. You know, sometimes we think, well, the streams just stop at 10 o'clock too, so that we can store up money, but they don't. And so our contract with a lot of the farmers is actually from 10 to 6. We try to get everything done by noon, but so our watering is a little bit different. And this year we have decided to cut our watering in half.
We have.
And so we have limited our a lot of the places we're going to water, and we've cut it in half just to survive. So that's kind of our take on it. Sometimes is I am not somebody that is an extremist that says, oh, we got to cut all water, trees die, rip out the grass, because I believe that trees, grass, shrubs help the global warming, if you will, or whatever you want to, climate change. The more shade we have, the more they produce O2, take in CO2. So there's a lot of good things that plants do, and so we have to keep them alive.
We do.
I'm in it. I mean, I get it, but we can keep them alive without making them, without overwatering.
Right. Well, and this leads into a really important point. So USU has a great new drought website. So we created a website to help you guys get through all of this.
Yeah, we do.
So you can go to extension.usu.edu/drought, and we can put that in the comments. But on that website, there are links to several articles, and one of the things that USU has just put out is prioritizing what's in your landscape and what needs water. And you just said a bunch of those different things. So trees are number one.
Yeah.
Because they do provide shade, and they cool things off, and they provide, oxygen, things like that for us. Shrubs are number 2. And then we move to perennials. So all of your perennial plantings are number 3 on the list. Annuals, we love annuals because they give us color, but we could really do without them this year.
Or we could clump them so that there's
Yeah,
just a
really
just a group.
Right, which
That
is what
works
I did
better.
at my house. I have a couple of containers with annuals that don't take much water, and it's just a couple little focal points. And then
That's
our
it.
last one is turf.
Turf.
Turf is last on the list.
We have a question.
Okay,
from
we have a
one of
question.
the listeners, and April asks, should we water more often for struggling plants or water deeper the same amount of days that you always do?
So, okay, this is a good question. And
Great question. We
it's
get
a
it
really
lot.
good question. So she wants to know, should we water the same amount of days, but just deeper, or should we do something different
I think for struggling plants.
for struggling plants? Plants
Well,
that are
I
already
guess a
struggling.
lot of that describes, you kind of have to, okay, what do you mean struggling?
Right.
But my opinion is, especially with the trees and the shrubs, deep. Let's get the water down. Let's get their roots down. A lot of times when we water shallow, the roots are going to grow where there's water and oxygen. And nutrients. That's what they need. And sometimes we put the water, oxygen, and nutrients in the top 6 inches, and then we wonder why, when we only water 2 inches, the plants are still drought every day, 2 inches. So my opinion is, let's help those plants get a deeper root system. Let's water it a little bit deeper, slower.
Right, right. So with our orchard here, we have a demonstration orchard, and we water once a week,
Once a week.
but we water deep.
Yeah, we
so
do.
for trees, less water. If they're in your lawn, in your turf, it becomes a little bit difficult to get it deep sometimes. But even that, we're on a 2-day-a-week watering schedule right now is what's recommended. And so you can water those 2 days, and you're going to water nice and deep. So if you were running your sprinklers for 20 minutes 4 times a day, you're probably going to want to run for 2 times a day, maybe running 30 to 40 minutes, something like that, just to get that water to move down.
And sometimes, for instance, my front yard sits on a little bit of a slope.
Mm-hmm.
If I water more than about 15 minutes, it starts running off.
Right.
And so if I want to get a deep watering, I can't water it for 30 minutes
Right.
because 15 minutes of it just runs into the street.
Right.
So I will water 15 and then do the next station, the next station, the next station, and then come back and maybe do 10
another.
so that water has time to percolate into the soil, and then I'll just add more
And
water.
then you add more. So prioritizing what needs to be taken care of. If you have new trees, watch those
Yep.
carefully. New plantings, watch those carefully. This is probably not the year that you want to put in turf.
Well,
I would wait.
This is the year to take out some turf.
Yeah.
Now, I never say remove grass. I never say remove all the grass.
Some.
We need some. And I usually tell people, why do you have it? Do you have it just to show it off to your neighbors because it's nice and green? I'm serious.
My grass is greener than yours.
If that's why you have your grass, get rid of it.
Yeah.
If you have, in my front yard, I have a very small patch of grass. Most of it is a tree and shrubs and some perennials and stuff. Because I don't, that's all it does. It's just a showcase. Nobody plays on it. But in the backyard, that's where the kids play, the grandkids now. And so we do have some turf, but you hardly ever have to water it. It's a little bit brown, but that's okay. That doesn't mean it's dead.
Let's talk about why it's okay for your grass to be brown, because mine's browning out right now.
Well, we can walk around our property here. Everything
all
we got
brown.
is browning out.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. I'm not complaining at all.
Why are we okay with it, Jerry?
Because it's alive.
It is.
It's fine. As soon as it cools, it gets some more rain. It'll just perk right back up. It'll be fine. So we try to tell people, relax.
Right. Grass.
It's okay.
We have cool season grasses that we
Yeah,
normally
we do.
plant in our front yards, and those grasses normally brown out when the temperatures start to spike, which is where we're at right now.
Early.
Yeah,
And I get
we're a
that.
little early. Usually mine doesn't start to brown out till the end of June, and here we are at the beginning, and it's starting to brown out. So we're running a little fast. Pretty much everything's running fast this year because of the heat. But it will perk back up, just like
will.
you said. So that's one thing that I think we really need to wrap our head around, that it's okay for our grass to brown out a little bit.
I grew up in the Northwest, south of Seattle, and I didn't even know what a sprinkler system was till I moved to Utah, basically, many years ago. But it is very common for us not to have rain there for 10, 14 days. The grass looks brown. Everybody's yard looks brown. It's
Yeah.
okay. No big deal, because as soon as it rains, boom, it greens right back up and we're fine. We have to take on that mentality that it's okay.
Yeah,
It's a little bit of browning doesn't kill the lawn. And in reality, I think I read somewhere it only takes, what, a half inch? A month.
A month.
A
You
half
only
inch
need
a month
inch
to keep
of
it
water
alive.
A month. And that's not very much. So that grass will just go dormant, and it will sit dormant, and then as soon as we cool off in the fall and have access to water, it will be fine. So don't worry about that.
Another trick, mow it as high as you can.
Yes, that will
Don't
really help.
don't scalp it. Mow it high, and the higher it is, the deeper the roots will be. It'll also start to outcompete weeds. People always say, well, if I let it go dry, I'll get some weeds. If you mow it tall and water it like we're talking about, it will be fine, and it'll do much better with taller it is.
So 2.5 to 3 inches.
Yeah, and it's what I tell people is just put your mower on the high as it'll go.
Yeah.
I think that's 3 inches.
It is.
Most
I think
mowers.
it's 3 inches. So yeah, put it high. That will really help. Do we have another question,
We
Rachel?
have 2 questions.
Okay.
One of them comes from Cody, and he asks, how do you tell your neighbors to stop watering?
Ooh, how do you tell your neighbors to stop watering? Okay, so we have a wonderful vegetable specialist here, and he gave me this phrase, and I have loved it. He said, in the West, whiskey's for drinking and water is for fighting.
Yeah.
And this is a hard one. This is so hard. Because you want to have good neighbors, and you don't want to be that guy, right?
Well,
But what do
you
we
know,
do?
I think number one is you set the example.
Right.
And you water properly. And number two, and it's hard because I don't know your relationship with him. Maybe it's an enemy, and you know he wants to. If you say don't water, he's going to water. I hate that. But set the example, and then just kindly remind him. I don't know how you.
You know what I found?
Be tactful.
You know what I found is a great thing? Weber Basin Water, if you're in Davis County, will come and do a water audit on your sprinklers.
For free.
For free. They'll come out, they'll check your sprinklers, they say this is how you water most effectively, they'll help you set the times and everything. So you can get on Weber Basin Water's website, they can do that. And then you can tell your neighbors, you know what I had done? It's the coolest thing. I had Weber Basin come out and check my sprinklers. And then you don't have to tell them, Weber Basin will.
That's true.
So
Yeah,
I
if you
just
can
pass
always
the
shove
buck.
it on to somebody else.
I just pass the buck. And
You're
then,
learning to be a director.
and then the other thing I do is I will post on my personal Facebook, because I have a lot of neighbors and friends on my personal Facebook, and I'll say, hey guys, did you know that there's a drought? Did you know that you can water less? And I don't direct it at any one person. I just put it out there for all of my neighbors and friends to see, and then if they choose to listen, great.
Great.
And if I can influence 1 or 2 or 3 people, that's more
Great.
than not, right? But I
It
do
is.
it with kind of an attitude of, I don't want to fight you. I kind of want to have a kindness tone going on
Yeah,
there,
it's-
but it's tricky.
I think you have to, and you know me, I try to be kind. Try.
Yeah, try. Well, we all try.
So,
we work here.
um,
Sometimes we get grumpy.
well, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah, another question is, how can you tell if the grass is browning from lack of water or if it's browning from another cause, such as grubs?
Ooh, really good question. How can you tell if your grass is browning because of water or because of an insect like a grub? And you want to look at the patterns. Honestly, when I look out at my lawn, the areas that are hit by the sun the most, those are the areas that are browning out first. If it was, towards the edges, if it was moving and creeping across, and I could pull out chunks of grass, if I could roll my grass back like a carpet, those are things that tell me I have insects.
So the other thing I tell people is don't be afraid to take your trowel out there and dig around.
Dig around.
If you find larvae, little white guys crawling around in there, chances are it's an insect. You will see a few, but if you see a lot of them,
see a lot.
But don't be afraid to dig around out there. See how moist it is? I mean, you can do this.
You
and
can.
it's not going to hurt. And so to me, the number one thing is just go out and inspect it. Go out and dig and pull and see what's happening with your grass. If it's still a little bit brown, but when you pull it, it's pretty firm.
Right, it doesn't
It's
just pull
just
right
probably
up.
drought. It could be a couple other things, but generally it's drought.
Yeah, usually right now, with the heat, it's drought. I will say that bill bugs this year have been through the
Out
roof.
the roof.
I have
yeah.
seen bill bugs everywhere, but you'll see the damage move across your lawn, and it will be
And
very
it's
different.
and you can see a pattern
Spotty,
to it.
yeah, it's kind of spotty, and it moves, and when you start to dig, they look like little puffed rice, little
Yeah, they do.
white
Don't eat
larvae.
'em.
Don't eat them.
Well, I guess you could.
Protein. Were there any other questions, Rachel?
Yes. So this goes along with it talking about the insects. So should we treat the insect problems during the drought time or just wait?
I would treat them because they will do some damage. And there are a number of ways to treat them. There's the preventatives, which a lot of people like, which is kind of a systemic approach. And then there's the curative, where it's you're putting it on to actually kill right then, trying to get it to where they are. Those are the two options you have. Yeah, if you have insect problems, we're not telling you not to do any of that. Treat them. Yeah.
Because that will
follow
help
the label.
Right. And that will help your lawn be healthy. And a healthy lawn will withstand drought much better than a not healthy lawn. So we want your lawn to be healthy. So do all those things. Fertilize. Make sure you aerate in spring and fall, or either one. Make sure you're treating for insects and diseases. All of those things should be done.
Yeah. Was there another question, Rachel?
Yes. So, when it's hot like right now, what other recommendations do you have for grass? I know we talked about mowing.
So mowing it tall, watering it deep when you do our what am I trying to cyclic.
When you do your irrigation cycles. Make
sure you're watching it. The other thing I tell people is, now that's turf. The other thing about turf, though, what I say is, watch it sprinkle. I mean, go out there with your eyes, and when your sprinklers are on, turn it on just so you can inspect it. Make sure all the sprinklers are come on through.
We're gonna have interference, but that's okay. We're good.
We decided that we wanted to do this right in the front because we like to interrupt people. I don't
No, we had the best internet connection.
Oh, that's what it was. So
yeah, I did put down mulch in my beds though too. So I mulch on my lawnmower and put the grass clippings back down because that will help. That will help hold water. And then I also went to the landfill and I got the nice fine mulch and I put that down through my beds everywhere this year to kind of help reduce the evaporation of water out of the soil. So it's a great thing. That's one more layer that you can add to your trees, your shrubs, that kind of thing. Did we have another question?
Yes. Someone asked, so not drought related, but my kids were digging and found grubs. What do I do about that? I don't want to kill the grass. We just established it last year.
Okay, so we have a great fact sheet. If you Google USU white grubs, it will pop up. We'll try and put it in the comments after the live and answer your question there also. But there are a number of treatment options. Me.
I just wanted to clarify.
Jerry goes to lunch. No, just kidding.
Well, he does.
That's how that works. No,
that is true.
I'll try and pop that fact sheet in the comments for you afterwards. But you can Google it very easily with USU and grubs in your search bar, or white grubs, and it will pop right up. So you do want to treat it, and there's options for you. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. Go ahead.
I was just going to highlight a couple things that we have going on with regards to water and stuff here. Sheridan just put in a pollinator garden. We put in a pollinator garden. Sheridan was in charge of it and did a great job.
Thanks.
And it is mostly drip. Mm-hmm. And even though the perennials, and the other thing what we do is we will plant perennials close. That shades the soil so that we lose less evaporation and less weeds.
Right.
And so we do use drip. We also use stream irrigation sometimes because it has bigger drips. It's not
it's not like an aerosol mist that just
we try to
evaporates.
Use nozzles and heads that have bigger drops so we don't lose as much to evaporation, and you will lose some. And the other thing I think is cool, if Sheridan established a couple years ago a park strip demonstration where she has a number of, she has the traditional grasses, different grasses, and then thyme. My park strip is thyme now.
Your park strip is thyme. I think that's awesome.
And then you have other park strips with all different perennials to see what does well. And then you keep track of the water.
We do. We're keeping track of the water usage, and each bed is set at a different rate. So we're seeing how low we can really go.
How low we can go.
It's like a limbo, but with water. So
keep it looking good.
Yeah, we want it to look good. So as the temperature kind of creeps up and as we see plants kind of start to struggle, we will, adjust and see how low we can keep it. But it's kind of an interesting little project. We are comparing to turf grasses. So there's the Kentucky bluegrass. We have a turf-style tall fescue, and we have the cabin mix, and we have thyme like yours so that you can see some of those different rates. We were just looking at the meters this morning. And it looks like, even establishing last year and getting those plants going, we didn't use that much water, which is great. So,
that's cool. That's
really
good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll start to have some data. There's a whiteboard out there that we'll start to write some data on so that you can see how much water we're using in gallons
pretty cool.
per week. So it would be great. And then,
Now, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say the other thing is I have done some videos on how to flip your park strip to a planting.
Yes, you have, and they're
yeah,
good.
so
They're actually good.
Thanks. There's 4 or 5 videos you can go back through, Garden Guys and Gal. In fact, I just posted a new one, just kind of an update for you, and then one of our fantastic master gardeners put on the Facebook page, all in the comments under that video, all of the other videos so that she could find them. So they're there, and I walk you through all the irrigation, like how to flip that irrigation from pop-ups to drip. I show you how I did that. I showed you how I planted. I showed you how I ripped out the grass and killed it. And then there is, of course, an update.
You need a vacation.
I do. I work hard. I need a raise and a vacation.
I'm not so sure about the raise, but the vacation's good.
So the other thing I was going to say, Jerry, is that we oftentimes just go and we don't think about it, and we just turn on our sprinkler clock. So this is one thing that I've done this year. It requires a little more commitment and a little more thought. I've actually just turned off my clock.
Okay, I was going to say, I turn mine off.
Yeah.
And I will turn it on because normally what I would have been doing in the past is watering 3 times a week. I'm down to 2, like they said. I'm trying to do 2, and I'm watching my grass. And when it needs it, I will turn it on, I'll run through the cycle, and then I'll turn it back off. And I do that either in the evening or early mornings.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I do too. And I will walk through my lawn, and this is how I know it needs it. It starts to kind of get a little gray in color.
You can see it.
And then as I walk, you can see that my
Footprinting.
footprints stay. Yeah. They don't bounce back. So I know that my lawn is a little dehydrated, and that's when I water. So it is a more committed approach. Like I have to be more on top of it, and then I have to go turn my stuff off after I turn it back on for that one time, and do it that way. But I feel like I am saving quite a bit of water that way.
Well, and I feel the same way. And I have, as I said, in my front yard, I have a tree. Part of my little lawn area is out in full sun, and part of it is in shade. Mm-hmm. And so I don't look at the sun part. I mean, it goes a little bit brown.
Yeah.
I normally watch the shade part because I just know that the one in full sun is going to dry out a little bit sooner, and I'm okay with that. I mean, if I felt like it, I guess I could put a little sprinkle out there, but I don't. I'm okay with it turning a little bit brown.
Awesome.
Yes.
We have another question.
So how do you figure out how much water a tree needs, and how do you modify that in a drought?
How do you figure out how much water a tree needs?
That's
There are some online resources that
That's
you
a tough
can.
one.
It is hard because it depends on soil. It depends on how humid your air is. It depends on a lot of things. Wind. It's all this. There's a big equation for evapotranspiration, and it's scary, and nobody wants to know that.
No, but I'm going to tell you the biggest thing is just watch.
Watch.
Look, be observant. I mean, I've had people who have told me, well, I mean, they'll bring in a sample of a dead tree or something and say, this just suddenly happened, and I'll say, well, how long have you been checking your tree? Well, I checked it last month. You know, so if you're out there, 2 or 3 times and just observing things and looking at them, that'll tell you more than anything else. You can dig down into the soil. Mm-hmm. That'll tell you more. You can dig down in and see if it's still moist 6 inches down around your tree, and if it's still moist, you're good. You can take your hand and squeeze it, and it feels really cool and moist, and you're fine. It sticks together. It's really wet.
It's really
wet. That's what I tell people is, let's start using our eyes and our senses and kind of looking at the plants a little bit more. That's the biggest thing for me is just watch it. Now, as far as I'm, once a week if we're watering, and when you water, you can throw your hose out there, let it dribble so it's not running off. After an hour or 2, you can go out with a long screwdriver, stick it into the ground, and it'll slide right in until it either hits a rock or dry ground.
And then you're like, hey, that's how deep.
And then you pull it out,
You measure.
6 inches, bingo, I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm golden.
I'm golden. Golden boy. So there is that. I do watch my leaves pretty closely too.
Yeah.
I have a Japanese maple in my backyard that I was trying to hold back on my water, and I noticed the leaves just started to go down just a little bit, and I was like, okay, we're there.
They'll tell you.
But it just requires you being observant. You'll sometimes see some browning on the very edges of your leaves. That's another indication that maybe you need to adjust a few things.
Yep.
So, yeah. Any other questions?
We have a question of how much damage can we expect from cicadas this year?
I don't know.
I think it depends on where you live.
Yeah,
There are pockets of them, and I know that we have grasshoppers out in the west right now galore.
Yeah, they're pretty
crickets, whatever you want to call them.
bad. Yeah, the Mormon crickets.
Cicadas, I don't worry quite so much. the East, the Midwest, they're having quite a time. Even New Mexico, I've heard, and some other places, but I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I just don't worry about it.
I don't think it will be too bad in most locations here. And like Gary said, I think the East Coast is going to see it more than we will. So, not a big deal. All right. Do we have any?
We are causing a roadblock.
We are.
I just
We're
want
causing
people
a
to know
huge roadblock
that
because
we create problems
like
wherever
that.
we go.
Do we have any more questions, Rachel? Okay,
No.
I think we're caught up. I think we've given some good tips. Go to extension.usu.edu/drought, and it will tell you. You can even just put it in your search bar, USU drought, and it will tell you all of those wonderful resources. There are links galore: how to water vegetables, how to water turf, how to water trees. It's all there. So if you have questions, go explore that site. There is another great resource, which is Seawell, which is the
Center for Water Efficient Landscape.
Center for Water Efficient Landscape. So if you Google USU Seawell,
CWEL.
yep, that will pop right up. Also, and
Another great site.
there's information on how to do a water check in your lawn. What to do with the drought, how to manage your landscape. So much great information.
Plus other links to other things that you can
To
find.
Weaver Basin,
Yeah.
so you can get your neighbors signed up for that water check and get them
But
on
you're
board.
all over that.
Yeah. So many resources that our fantastic team at USU has put together that you can use to help yourself. So, and you can walk our grounds. You can see our WaterWise plantings. You can walk the Arboretum. We have WaterWise sections of trees.
Which we water once a week now.
We do.
We've, as I said, we've cut our water in half this year.
We really have. And so expect to see some brown here, but also know that we're trying to keep the most important things alive. So, yeah.
Us.
All right. So thanks, guys, so much for watching, and we will see you in a few weeks live again.
Yes, you will.
Happy